What is going on, everybody? Welcome. And today we're going to be going through a development analysis for a potential project in Kirkland, Washington. Going to be looking at a piece of property and going through comps, going through environmental and land entitlement works, potential hazards, things to watch out for, discuss kind of costs and timelines and stuff, everything like that, feasibility, all that stuff. So let's jump right in. So subject property is this place right here. This is kind of what it looks like, and I just walked it the other day, and so this is what it looks like. But does it really matter what it looks like on the inside? Not really, because we're going to be demoing it and building the idea would be to build a single family home and potentially a DADU on this lot. It's 9,500 square foot lot. It has a proper zoning, as you will see. Or you could build one giant home as well. So here's some comps as it currently sits. So 1,970,000, 862. This one here, almost 1 million. Again, personally, if I'm buying lots, this one's much more attractive to me. I'll tell you how much somebody paid for this subject lot at the end of the video. But I think whoever did end up getting the property overpaid quite a bit. And I'll explain why. So here's the property again. Here's the details. Again, biggest thing that we're looking at is lot size right there, and just some kind of comps of like what sold. This is not really comparable. This one is if you fully gut it and remodel it and spend a whole bunch of money, but again, we're not doing that. So let's go on to if you do one giant home, right? If you do one giant home, basically here's some comps. Now I think a lot of these are much better lots. Like this is a much cleaner lot. This is a much cleaner lot. This is a much better lot. This is a much cleaner lot. I'm thinking if we take the lowest price that actually sold, which is this one right here, 2.8, which is through my friend of mine, Wahid. It has great curb appeal. It's a better location than our subject lot. It is smaller lot size, but again, better access, better location, better curb appeal, nice flat, good location, good neighbors. So I think that if you were to build something like this on our subject lot, you'd be looking at a price point of 2.5 to 2.6 million if you actually want to get it sold. For something, again, this size. It's 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, this much square feet, okay, for new construction. Now, in order to build something like this, just so you guys know, just for the vertical construction only is probably going to run around, 325 a square foot. So if you have 3,451, that equals $1.121 million. Okay. So what does that mean? If you buy it for 1.121 and the property cost $1 million, that's $2.121 million, and that's before you have any holding costs and financing and soft costs. Okay, so let's say you could get your building costs down a little bit to $300 a square foot, which I think you can, and you go still having a crazy high-end luxury product. So we're talking engineered hardwood floors, luxury appliances like Thermador, Sub-Zero, you name it. We're talking wide hallways, tall ceilings, all the best materials. It's going to still cost you $1 million to build. Okay, so $1 million. If you buy the land for $1 million, that's $2 million. And if you sign it for 2.5, if you look at it just like that, that's a pretty good deal. However, there's some things you need to consider. So let's go over and jump through this. This is the GIS portal for Kirkland. and it kind of goes over all the different potential environmentals, topography. It has a whole bunch of different information. We've got utilities, we've got sewer lines, we've got wastewater here, power, cable, all that stuff is right here. So that's good location for all of that. This parcel that we've just looked at as a subject property is a corner lot, so that is nice. However, I can tell you, if I take this off, and if I take off, so this street right here is a main street. It's a main corridor. It is very busy. It is very noisy. So when you're building something here, even though it is technically a cul-de-sac, like this would probably be a better lot, if I'm going to be honest. If you could build deeper into this lot, this would be a better lot right here. This lot is bigger than this lot, so in this lot might be worth, and there's not as many issues, and as you'll see, this could potentially be worth over $1 million, slightly. This one, I do not think so. Here's why. So when you go to environmental, over here, we do have the topography. It doesn't look that bad from here. But then if you go to, okay, well, let's look at landslide potential. Okay, this is what's called an ECA. So as you can see, this lot has much fewer of landslide potential. And like I said, you could build a home back or in this lot right about against this line and have a better driveway. Or you could do something here and then over here and have a double split driveway, right? So have something here and have something deeper in the lot, okay? This one, as you can see, almost 3/4 of the lot is a landslide issue with moderate susceptibility. And then right along here, along the main drag on this side of the lot, is what's called head scarps. And I'm not even sure what that means, but I just know that it's basically a no-fly zone, according to the planning and permitting departments. Also, let's take that off for a second. When you're looking at doing an analysis, you have to look at what's called liquefaction potential. Okay? If you look at this one again, this whole area has liquefaction potential. Does that mean anything is going to be stop you from building? No. But, it could. It could be another layer that you'd have to jump through for feasibility. They're probably going to make you do a geotech. Now, those are the only two things that I saw. Other than that, there was a lot of trees on the site, so you'd have to do an arborist report as well. Now, what I can tell you in terms of like a holding cost perspective is that the permitting timeline for a single family home in Kirkland right now, although they're good and they're good people and they're good communicators, right now you're looking at minimum 6 months and probably average time 10 to 12 months for a single family home permit. Now you could get, a single family and a cottage or a single family home and a daddy at the same time. Like you could do it simultaneously. So that way you could have all your permits in 10 to 12 months for both of them. So you could build both of them at the same time if you wanted to. But that's still a long time. And before you can even get your permit, you're going to have to find a way to mitigate and deal with this landslide. So this, because of this whole thing, is a moderate susceptibility landslide area, and this is a headscarp. You'd have to do a bunch of, and this was really steep right here. I think that's what they call it. This was a really steep part of the lot when I was walking it. So that's probably what they're talking about. It kind of goes, it drops off, like there's like a hill ridgeline, like right here, and it drops off pretty steeply into the culvert of the road, the main drag here. So, anyways, so you'd have to backfill a bunch of that. You'd have to do an arborist report to see if we could remove the trees. There's trees here, 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 all over this home, all around it, and they're all large trees. So if you buy this land, and let's say that the arborist says, oh, you can't cut these trees down, well, now you're stuck. Now you have to sell. because you can't build anything because of the trees. I'm not sure if this would happen. I'm just saying this is a potential risk that you have to consider. Another thing, again, that you're going to do is like, hey, they could say you can only build on this section of the lot. Well, that's not really worth it. So now again, would have to sell. Okay. They might say, oh, you have to do what's called pins and pylons, which cost tens of thousands of dollars, if not over $100,000, depending on how much they make you do. For this one, it's not severe, so if they do make you do it, I'm sure it's going to be like 20 pins, but the pins cost, I don't know, $500 to $1,000 each, so that could be $10,000 to $20,000 extra in cost before you can even, and that's just in site work. To connect utilities and do all the site work for this with the grading, and because this whole thing's kind of needs to be graded, you would have probably going to be costing you about $25,000 to $30,000. The utility connection is going to be another, $10,000 to $12,000 to connect all the utilities. So that's something you have to consider. And long story short, you have selling costs too. If let's say if you are able to build one single family home on here and you pay all that money to get it to a point where you can build a home, let's say you can sell it for 2.6. Well, selling costs on a $2.6 million home are going to be $200,000, let's say. So now you're at 2.4. And you have what's holding costs, right? Holding costs are going to be probably a little over 14K a month, maybe 15K. And again, you're looking at a 10 to 12 month permitting timeline, and then you have the building process, which is going to take another 8 months probably. So let's just call it a total of 20 months and maybe even 24 of holding costs. So, and like, let's say if you're paying $14,000 a month for everything, we're talking taxes, utilities, insurance, the loans on it, construction loan, everything, times 24 months, that's $336,000. Okay, just in holding costs. Okay, so you have 2.4, right? Because you just lost $200,000 minus 336. That gives you 264, 2,064,000 minus your cost to build. Let's call it $1 million. Now you have $1,064,000. Technically, this is the maximum you could offer for the land. However, this is also where your profit comes in. So if you want to make $200,000 on the sale, net profit, that means the most you can offer for this land is $864,000. And again, there's going to have other expenses. Your permit's going to be $20K. So then take minus $20K. Like I said, your site work's going to be extra probably $15 to $20K. So minus another $20K. So you're probably looking at $825 offer. Now, if you want to be a little bit risky, and you could probably, if you know what you're doing, you could probably save some costs. But then really, you put in at $850. So after me walking through the lot, to deal with all the headache, to deal with all of the potential hazards, extra costs, because you would need a survey, an arborist report, a geotech report, maybe a critical area review, as well as doing all the different stuff with the city and all the different dirt work and mitigation of the site, possibly adding pins. So that's a lot of extra steps than like the other lots where it's just flat. There's no critical areas. There's no ECAs, and you just simply go through the permitting process and you permit it faster too. Those might be 6 to 8 months because again, you're not having to go through all these different steps. So these steps take time. So I mean, honestly, 12 months might be fast for this parcel to get a permit because. But and when otherwise, if you didn't have to go through all these extra steps with the geotech and the arborist and a critical area review, you could probably get that done in like 9 months, get a permit in 9 months, maybe even faster. But with all those extra steps, it's going to take longer. Every single time it takes longer, it means more holding costs. Even if you will get your holding costs down to 10 or 11K a month, that's still every single month matters. It's 10, 11K that you're bleeding every single month. So you have to think about that. Does this deal make sense? Yes, I think at 850, this deal makes perfect sense. Yes, you might be saying, oh my gosh, 850 for land is so expensive. Yes, it is. But if you could build a home and you'd want to put some sound dampening like trees or panels or something here, because this is, and also it adds privacy. So you could add like a fence and some trees on this side and make the home closer to this side and then have it, tie into here. I think you'd be better off. You'd be much better off doing that than having the home closer to here. Because again, this road is very noisy and very busy. So you would want to place the home closer to this side of the lot. I think there's a 5 or 10 foot setback right here. So you'd want to place on this side of the lot and then, have a little bit of a driveway. So your home would effectively be like this. Okay. Yeah. And so that's kind of the analysis. I hope you guys enjoyed walking through this with me. So the final price. So I was going to offer 850, maybe even 860, and somebody ended up offering over $1 million. I think it was close to like 1050. So again, after doing this analysis, as you can see, with all the extra steps and all the extra potential costs and the delayed timelines, there's a lot of risk involved. And, some of people might think, oh, well, you can get it 2.7. Well, the market shifted, and I don't think it's going to shift back in the next year. So, you're looking at the end of next year when you be completing it, maybe the year after that. So 2028. Okay. We don't know what the market's going to be like in 2028. If I got it for 850, there's enough margin and room for error where I could take a 10% loss and still make like 100K, right? If I got it at 850. If you're paying, and that's what I'm saying, this is like all about risk mitigation, right? So 850, there's enough room, right? I'm $200,000 less than the current guy. Well, that means if the market sucks, and it is kind of what it is right now, and it's soft, I can absorb $200,000, right, of wiggle room and still make a profit of $200,000. Okay? If whoever bought the property for 1050, if they end up landing in a soft market and they don't get what they think their ARV is, which they are probably thinking 2.6 to 2.7. If they don't get that and they're at 2.5 and maybe even less because it's a soft market, or maybe they don't do a good job, or maybe the holding costs go out of control, or whatever might have construction costs go higher, feasibility, light site work goes higher, whatever those costs are, if you don't have that buffer, you could be putting yourself up for a big problem. Okay. So I think all day long, 850, this makes sense. I think paying an extra $200,000 for it is very, very high risk, personally. But that's my analysis. That's my personal opinion. All right. Thanks. Take care. Hopefully you learned something today, and hope you enjoyed.